let's block this. Hi, welcome to my channel La Fraise. I'm Noémie and I wanted to quickly come and intro this video about my new knitting project. So I have started, if you have seen my last knitting vlog, I had the choice between quite a few projects and I have decided to start my own cardigan in the half fisherman rib stitch. I have a few clips of me doing my swatch and learning how to do the stitch, and then I'm gonna show you this and then we're gonna come back to now. So I've done my swatch for my next jumper, the lilac one, in half fisherman rib stitch. And I know that my bind off is really not ideal. It really pulls everything a little bit. Also, I was really struggling with doing an actual fisherman also on the last stitch. As you can see, it was not going well. So I decided to just do a normal stitch on the end, which is why halfway through it changes, but I hope it'll still give me a swatch that I can use. I'll try to measure it across more here than there, because you see here it pulls a little bit. At the moment, it is so like just over 7 across, yeah, almost 8 at the bottom, and yeah, 8.5 here. I'm very curious to see how that's gonna grow. Apparently half fisherman grows a ton when you block it. So this is my swatch. I quite like swatching because really it was the first time doing a half fisherman and it took me a little bit, you can see there's a few mistakes here. It took me a few goes to really understand how it worked. I was actually finding it quite frustrating because from the videos I could find online, it was always like, they were like, okay, now you knit one below, but it was filmed from too far away, so I couldn't see like where is the one below. And then the one that was showing it from a little bit closer up, she was twisting her needles in a way. I was like, I just need to see where you put your F needle. And I was getting really frustrated. I was like, can't anyone show me like where I can put my needle? And when I was searching on YouTube specifically how to knit one below, it wasn't showing me from the purl side, which is what you need for a half fisherman rib. So I was really like not sure for a long while where to put my needle, and I think by the end I got it, but I think I had quite a few that were not perfect at the bottom. But I'm still impressed seeing how imperfect it was at the bottom, how neat it still looks. Like there's a few mistakes that you definitely can see, but still like I'm very impressed by this, and I'm now all about swatching because I'm like, well, you have a 10 by 10 little practice round and now I feel more confident to start the actual cardigans. I was also worried because you knit this double, but it's been fine. I was like, oh my god, it's going to be way too thick knit double, but no, it's quite nice. It makes a really nice fabric. It's going to be really cozy. So I'm gonna block this and see how this swatch is doing, because last night we watched the Great British Sewing Bee, and because this isn't blocked, I couldn't start on the actual jumper. So I need to block this to be able to start knitting in front of the TV again, especially because the new season's coming out soon. So very important to be updated with my swatch. But yeah, so I just wanted to show I'm starting my next project. I was really worried about starting that half fisherman rib. Like I wasn't feeling really confident about it. Yeah, as I said, I wasn't really understanding what was happening from the videos I could find online, but we're getting there. And you know, I was really thinking it's such a shame that I had to frog my previous project, because normally I think what I would try to do is kind of like start the next project, block it and everything while you finish the previous one, so that you don't have this lull in between. Because here I really needed to finish a book because it needed to be brought back to the library, and I was like, if I don't stop knitting, I'm never going to finish this book and I'm not going to have it back to the library on time. I had already extended it once, so I had to bring it back. So I was like, okay, no more knitting until you finish the book. I have finished the book, I can be back in knitting. But I have found that having this break between my two projects, and like the 2.5, because I started one that I had to frog, and that also kind of like put a spanner in the wheels. Yeah, I found that it has slowed me down a bit. So in an ideal world, I would like to have my next project started before I finish the next one in the future. Yeah, because here I was really like, it was hard to start because you don't have a project that you can just knit. You have to do swatch and you have to understand the stitch and everything. So yeah, that's my learning for next time. But obviously I was like, no knitting until you finish that book. So it was on purpose that I kind of like make myself stop. But ideally I would like not to stop because it really was hard to start again. And I really wanted to have a knitting project on the go, but I didn't want to start it. Hi, there we are back. And the swatch that I showed you last time has been blocked. And if I'm measuring it, and I will measure on the widest bit here and the height, stitch-wise, I'm at 8 centimeters. Even at the widest bit, I can claim 8 centimeters and a half. And row-wise, I'm at 7 centimeters and a half in places and up to 8.5 in others after blocking. So despite being told that fisherman's rib would stretch a lot, this didn't really stretch a lot while blocking and ended up a bit too small. And being naturally lazy, I asked Google, okay, so if my swatch is too small, I just size up needles and I start my project, right? And Google said what you probably know, which is no, you re-swatch. So despite being lazy in my heart, I have re-swatched. You're gonna see that this swatch is much neater already. I mean, day and night between the two. And if I measure it quickly now, this one is currently 8.5 centimeters across. So stitch-wise, 8 centimeters and a half, and also row-wise, 8 centimeters and a half. I have done an Icelandic bind off thanks to Just One More Stitch. If you are watching this is thanks to you. Guys, Just One More Stitch also has a YouTube channel, so if you need more knitting in your life, go and check what she's doing. Just One More Stitch recommended that I do an Icelandic bind off instead of the normal bind off that I've done here, which basically pulls my whole swatch in a tiny tight bind off at the top. And I complained quite a bit about how tubular was a bit of a faff and not really for me, and they recommended the Icelandic bind off, and look how nice. Just One More Stitch, I can't thank you enough. You've saved my bind off for sure, because this swatch is so much better thanks to the Icelandic bind off, which really has that stretch. So I'm extremely happy. I'm really pleased. So thank you. This is 8 centimeter and a half times 8 centimeter and a half. So I will block this and hopefully we grow to 10 to 10. So this is now on 7 millimeter needle. The previous one I did on 6 like the pattern recommended. So I hope that the 7 millimeter needles are going to be fine. I also felt like I knitted this really loosely, but apparently not. I'm just pleased as well by how much neater it is. So if this was my first try at half fisherman ribbing, this is the second stitch, and I feel like you can already see the difference, and I'm really excited to have a cardigan like this and then to make one for my wife. So it's getting on nicely. So let's block this. To finish, I also have a really weird little apartheid about my first UFO. Is that how you say? Yes, unfinished object, UFO. So something I'd never thought I would do, because I'm really someone who likes to go through with things, but here's my first UFO for you. Okay, so today I'm gonna address a scandal. I have a UFO in my knitting stash. I normally pride myself, I mean, the way, you know how everyone has their own narrative about themselves, and when I talk and think about myself, I think I'm a person who goes through with a project, who really, you know, is thorough and finishes what she does. But here I have started, I had shown you the first one, this is the first one. I had done a little Sydney, it's really hard to show because it's curling on the edges, a little Sydney terrace houses. I had shown it in one of my first knitting vlogs, and this is the second one that I have finished yesterday. And I had started a third one, and then I had just done the green lawn at the back in the first couple of rows of the house and then gave up. The reason I'm giving up is that, I mean, is it even worth explaining? I just don't care about the project anymore. I had seen this Instagram, I will show it to you now. It's a blanket by Boy Knits World, and it's a blanket about the little Sydney terrace houses that are so pretty. If you've been to Sydney, it's really iconic, and really seeing the blanket, I was really drawn to it. But then making this first one took me forever. I did really enjoy making it because it actually taught me about carrying colors in the back, and I feel like it was such an amazing learning experience, also because there's the texture. So I don't know if you can see, but under the door there's a little pearled line. This way it creates texture in the house. So all this, and also between the two floors. So all this has been an amazing learning experience, but realistically those two houses that don't want to uncurl have taken me forever to knit. I'm not really enjoying that knitting, also because it's really something that you need to focus on with the color work, so I can't really knit this while talking to people. If I watch TV, I basically miss everything that's happening, and so yeah, it's just not a priority project. I also didn't want to buy yarn for them, so I used scrap yarn from my wife, but so it wasn't the color I was really excited about, so it didn't really work for me. I'm also realizing now that they are wildly different sizes. They are supposed to end up the same size, and I have a good 2 centimeters difference between the two. Oopsie, I don't know what happened there, but clearly there was a little issue between those two. Oh dear, that didn't go too well. Well, I have a little bit more motivation to knit garments, something that you can wear. Here it's like we already have so many blankets in the house because my wife crochets, so having an extra blanket isn't really something we need, and also there's so many ends to weave, and I have 2 houses and I think I need like 64 to make the whole blanket, so I think the project felt a little bit too daunting for me at the moment. Yeah, it just didn't really fit with my goals, with my lifestyle, etc. So I don't do this very often, but I think those 2 houses are not going to meet their neighbors, and they're just gonna stay a little collection of 2. I am gonna keep them for now because I'm sentimental, but I don't know if I'll keep them forever or what I will do with them in the end. Maybe at some point we shall just part. But yeah, it was a bit funny because normally I'm really like, if I start something, I finish something, but here I was really like, I think even though I pictured myself as being a monogamous knitter, I can imagine actually having 2 projects, one that's more easy and one that's more involved, because yes, there just are moments where you can't really do something that's really intricate and requires you to look at charts and everything. So I think it would be nice to have the 2 options for, well, if I'm in a place where I'm able to do something intricate, or if I want some easy knitting, I think having the 2 will be good. But I don't think that the houses are this more difficult project for me. I mean, as I'm filming this, I'm like, maybe I could still, maybe. Because it's really hard for me to give up on something I've started, but realistically, I don't think the enjoyment I had from making this is worth it, to be honest. I'm starting to realize, I think because I'm using all different yarns and the scrap yarns, I think the yarn in the beige house is much thicker than the red yarn, which is why the final product ends up so much bigger. So yeah, so this is my first UFO. I feel like maybe it's a rite of passage I've just went through to have this now under my belt as well, but I am going to focus on all of my jumper and all of the different knits that are in the Kutovakika book. I realized in my head I thought I was being really strong about this, and that I was like, it's the end of me and the Sydney houses. But now, having to film it and officially say it, I'm like, it's over for now. It's not a goodbye forever, it's a little break. But look, it's a break, and I don't have a plan to start this again anytime soon. We'll see what the future brings. I can't say that I will never start this blanket again, but for now there is no plan starting it anymore. I really want to focus on the Kutovakika book, Knit This, that I am currently knitting through. There's quite a few sweaters and cardigan in this book, and also a couple of accessories, and I think that knitting the whole book is going to teach me quite a few different skills, and I'm going to prioritize that and not the little Sydney houses blankets. So my first UFO, that's it. Okay, so this is where I am with my project. I truly hope that it's going to grow quite a bit with blocking, because to be honest, at the moment this isn't wide enough to be a cardigan, but it is supposed to, you know, I have blocked the swatch, so I could actually do some math and see, okay, if this is this big, it's gonna grow this much, but can't be bothered, so I'm just gonna trust the process. But look how pretty it's like. Actually, if you've seen my video from Monday with my new shoes, this is again that lilac color, which I'm clearly really into at the moment. I hope you can't hear the washing machine too loud, I'm very sorry. So for Memo, I'm doing the Lazy Cat sweater from Kutovakika's book, and this is the yarn Drops Air, which is really, really nice. It's blown yarn, and I have heard, but not fact checked, that blown yarn is actually made not by being spun but by being blown into a tube, and that's why it has this really like nice texture, and it's really translating super nicely into the fabric that I'm knitting at the moment. It's really, really nice. I have to say, long live to the swatches. I would never have thought that I really valued swatching that much, because I like to go forward with my project. I come from sewing, where obviously you don't do anything near swatching, you just go for it. But actually, swatching first helped me to realize my gauge was so off. So it really helped me to size up with the needle, which means I can use bigger needles, which means it's going to be finished quicker. So we're happy for that. I was really, really off gauge if I hadn't done a swatch, but also the swatch allowed me to practice the stitch. And so by the time I arrive and I make the cardigan, I already feel comfortable with the stitch. So I really find it perfect. And if you want to see my 2 swatch, I don't know if in the end you've seen the 2 swatch blocked, but you can see the size difference is quite impressive. And this is not even, so we have reached almost but not quite the right stitch gauge, but not even the right row gauge. So yeah, I'm quite impressed that I was supposed to knit it with this. But yeah, it was really nice to be able to practice the stitch and everything. So pretty. I really enjoy seeing them like this. But yeah, I feel like this is going to take literally forever. I have in my little vlog planning planned 4 vlogs like I have for my previous jumper. So 4 vlogs, a vlog every 2 weeks. So it should take me, should take me 2 months to make. But honestly, I don't know if, I mean, at the rhythm I'm going, it just takes so long. It's really, really long to make this stitch. I think I am getting slightly faster, but it's still like, I don't know, and I'm also not knitting a ton at the moment, so I don't know, we'll see. We have a weekend at the seaside next week, so when you're seeing this, I'm basically leaving for the seaside, and to be honest, it's supposed to be not so great weather, so maybe a lot of knitting is going to happen there, and we're gonna have progress on this. But just want to say, really been enjoying the yarn, the fabric that this makes, doing a new stitch. It's quite satisfying to work on a new type of stitch and not just stockinette, even though stockinette is so relaxing. I'm actually aiming to knit the entirety of Kutovakika's book, but now she's saying that she's starting to work on a new book, and I'm like, one, I need to stop being an all or nothing type of person, because there are a couple of patterns in that book that are just not me, that are not my style, and it's like, I shouldn't force myself to knit jumpers that aren't going to work for me. So stop the all or nothing, can knit most of the book maybe, but maybe not the whole book. And then also, like, what do I do if she has a new book and I'm not finishing knitting the first book? So frustrating. So we'll see, but I just wanted to give the little update. This is where I'm at. That's it for me this week. I'm really glad to be back knitting with you. I really, really missed it. It's truly, when I had no knitting project, it felt so sad and empty. So really happy to be back into knitting. I really missed knitting with you guys as well. It's truly special. It's yeah, I'm glad to be back knitting with you guys. And don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to give it a like. It really helps me. Feel free to subscribe if you want to find your way back here in the future. And don't forget that you can make anything. Bye. So I'm filming here and Milo's resting his head on the little stool just at my feet. Milo, do you have something to say to the viewers? Want to tell them they can make anything? Literally have a puppy sleeping on my foot, so I can't move while I'm filming for you guys.